Hello everybody, Randy Patrick here. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns. Today is Tuesday, the 24th of September. We have just started the fall season, so there you go. The year's going by fast. Time is flying by here. News of the day today, I think the most intriguing news really today, and we'll keep this to be a little more shorter video as well, is the Case-Shiller information was released. And here's what the number one headlines say right now. So if you take a look at it, you got one location on the internet saying home price growth slowed to a crawl in July. Case-Shiller U.S. home price gains were lethargic in July. And you got another one here that says signs point to reheating in housing market as home price gains stop slowdown. So some conflicting headlines, I guess you could say, with respect to Case-Shiller, and we'll address that in a bit. So yeah, basically, last Tuesday of the month, these guys released their information. It's called the S&P, so Standard & Poor, CoreLogic Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price NSA Index, covering all 9 U.S. Census divisions. And what we had here was a reported 3.2% annual increase in July. Now, I guess why we see this reheating of housing headline is because the 3.2% annual increase compared to the year before in July was the same amount in June. It was also 3.2%. So it didn't decline from a national index perspective. It just didn't increase as well too. So when people hear that, I guess some people are saying, hey, the market's going to heat up now. Well, not quite so sure about that. Remember that July and August are typically your number one and number two selling months in the year. So I look at, hey, it maintained from June, which means it just held on there, and it wasn't a huge increase whatsoever. It was a maintain. So I'm not looking at this as a big win for housing values whatsoever. Now, when you look a little deeper, though, the S&P and the Case-Shiller, they have 3 indexes: a national index, a 10-city, and a 20-metro city. The 10-city composite annual increase came in at 1.6%, which is down from 1.9% the previous month. And the 20-city composite posted a 2.0% year-over-year gain, down from 2.2% the previous month. So the 10 and the 20 indexes are still dropping, and the national index held firm. So that's the information here. Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Charlotte had the highest year-over-year gains among the 20 cities. What we'll do is we'll take a look at those numbers right now, put in perspective here. I know that's all we want to talk about. So basically, these are the 20 cities in the metro, and I'll just sort of yell them off right here. Atlanta, 4% year-over-year change. Boston, 3.9%. Charlotte, 4.6%. Chicago, 1.6%. Cleveland, 3.2%. Dallas, 2.7%. Denver 3.1, Detroit 4.1, Vegas 4.7, Los Angeles 1.1, Miami 2.7, Minneapolis 4.2, New York 0.9% increase, Phoenix led the way at 5.8%, Portland 2.5, San Diego 2.0, San Francisco 0.2%, and Seattle was negative 0.6%. So Seattle was the only negative one for a couple months in a row now to have a negative year-over-year change. Other locations, as you can see, are getting down. We've got New York below 1%, San Diego almost at 0% as well too. So Tampa 4.5%, and Washington 2.7%. That's the year-over-year change. If you go looking at the month-to-month, they have another column, and I'll post this link on the information section of the video. But Los Angeles, New York, and Washington all had month-over-month negative changes. So again, some of the trends that we're seeing right now. But this doesn't surprise me. And when they say here that the price growth was lethargic, yes, it was. It's slowing, it's crawling, yes, it is, because we have less sales going on now. And the reason why we still have some modest or moderate price increase, because the homes that are selling for a little bit more than they did last year. So there's just a lot less of them right now. So we're not seeing the volumes, but we're still seeing sales, and some of those sales are still pushing the numbers up a little bit, which is a little bit confusing and conflicting. But in the end, if you start looking at the graphs and the trends, it's still trending down. That's the whole thing. I don't see it doing this. It's still doing that according to all the information. We are, excuse me, we are 14.7% above the national peak. So the national index peak, the last peak was in July of 2006. And if we take a look at where the current national peak is, it's 14.7% above that. So each month we're kind of gaining a little bit on that uptick from the old peak, but that's just the way it goes. So we're from down from the peak for the national index. We were the lowest part in February 2012. We were minus 27.4%. And we're 58% out of the trough right now. So again, it certainly does this and doing this, all right. But this top part here, we certainly have, I guess you could say, almost plateaued now. And honestly, some cities are starting to decline. So simple as that. That's the information here. Not outstanding. It's slow. It's boring. I get it. I want things to happen fast as well too. It just seems that we're just inching along now. Clearly, once the fall months come into play, we'll start to see the effects of less contracts, less pendings, less sales, and we will definitely see some, I guess you could say, price declines and value declines as well too. Now, because this was released today, I want to talk about a interview that our favorite guy, Robert Shiller, gave last week, actually late last week, and it was he was interviewed on Yahoo Finance, and he has a new book coming out. So that was probably part of the reason why he's interviewed. And new data from the U.S. Commerce Department released Wednesday showed a lot of information, and he's putting his spin on things here. And again, he's got a new book, so obviously he's talking a bit more, but he's got what he calls narratives. So he's talking about economy and narratives in the economy right now. He's not even looking at the numbers. He's talking about us as people and what we're doing about it, etc. So he says housing is driven by narratives. Before 2007, the narrative was flipping houses and the belief that home prices have always gone up, he said during this interview. Number two, so of course that's what did happen before the last Great Recession and housing crisis. People were flipping, people were buying, selling. It moved up very quickly as far as housing values were concerned. Then after the Great Recession, it was tragic narratives about people who lost their home, or dangers of borrowing too much or lending too much, or just that kind of perspective on the market. He said it's been 10 years since the crisis. Now those narratives are starting to be forgotten, which I have to agree, because a lot of the things that I touch base with people, they say that's a long time ago. That was 10 plus years ago. The market's changed. Well, the market has changed. There's a different dynamic to it for sure. There's still a lot of similarities to the last housing crisis, and things, as much as people would like them to improve, they're stagnating and they're actually not improving whatsoever. And I guess you could say that another point he made, another narrative that housing, Americans are looking at housing with more speculatively as an investment, and which has him thinking that we're sneaking back into the old 2006 mentality. So it's back to what I call the bubble mentality. So when things tend to go up, we tend to get complacent and comfortable, and we expect them to go up. And we make investments or we make financial decisions thinking it's going to go up, and hey, at least if something changes, I won't lose, but I'll break even, so I'll take the risk. You self-justify your risk to yourself. But again, his comment saying we're sneaking back into the old 2006 mentality is that. So at the peak of the bubble is when people who really haven't paid attention or haven't thought much about it get into the game, and they take greater and higher risks. They're also encouraged to take those risks by the media, real estate companies, lenders, mortgage professionals, real estate agents, all the things you hear out there, builders, buy, go up in price, and with rates drop, oh look, it's more affordable with rates drop. Well, it's not more affordable. You're just buying a lower payment is what you're doing. So, it's the price doesn't change, just the payment changes. So again, he's mentioning that we're sort of tracking like we used to back in the day here. So one of my points, though, is that when it's, how can I put it? When you go back to the speculation, that's where there is less risk and less what's what I'm looking for, less guilt or less emotion to the property. You really look at it more of a numbers game as opposed to an emotion. You own a property, you want it to do well, and you want to buy and sell, etc., as opposed to a speculation. We'll roll the dice and see what happens. So your people become removed from the process and from the home, which allows them to make decisions, quicker and maybe more negatively than they would if they were more emotionally invested in the property. So just when that kind of happens, you can tell people have sort of changed their tune on real estate, and it becomes just the numbers game right now. So one of the things I wanted to point out, though, that he mentioned this in a previous interview, that you could see, like with respect to the last housing crisis, you could see the signs there at least 2 to 2.5 years prior to it happened. So that was a pretty bold statement. So, whenever he speaks and gives interviews, I'm always looking and listening to see what he's saying and how he's saying it. So he's never going to go out and say, we have problems, everybody sell your house now, or jump off the cliff, follow me, etc. He's not going to do that. His comment was, you have to remember that the drop in home prices in the financial crisis was the most severe drop in the U.S. market since my data began in 1890. So since he was looking at the data, the last financial issue, last housing crisis was the biggest up and down, the biggest drop. I wouldn't expect anything as severe as the great financial crisis coming on right now. Okay, so coming on right now. So again, he's not saying it's never going to happen or it couldn't be as big. He just said coming on right now. And the reason why maybe he doesn't believe that, from my opinion, is the fact that we've got the low interest rates. We're trying to pump life into the real estate market. We're doing everything we possibly can to extend this euphoria or this wave of price increase and valuation increase. Oh, it's great, but we're not, either we're not queuing on the signs or picking up on the signs, or we're not willing to look at the signs and acknowledge them for what they are. And it basically, you think about it right now, it's the lack of inventory that's propping up the home values. So if there was more inventory in the market, what would happen? Values would drop. People could buy homes a lot better, a lot quicker, a lot cheaper. So, we're still being controlled. We're still being played a little bit in the marketplace here. That's kind of my gut feel on things. It's not even a gut feel, it's a reality when you take a look at what's happening, the numbers and things like that. I've been looking at some of the foreclosure markets, especially where I live, and I see some very different things happening right now and some changes. And again, I believe that a lot of people have been lulled to sleep with respect to what's happening right now, the bubble theory, but also what happened back in the day and the fact that they think they've got all this time to make decisions on their real estate, which I don't really think they do anymore, because I see some drastic changes happening right now, especially in the pre-foreclosure and foreclosure market, that if people don't become aware, it's going to affect them very negatively as time goes on. It's actually happening right now. So that's kind of the scoop for today. I just, again, I just thought I'd do a quick video for this. There's more news out there, but I'm not going to cloud the value news today. My perspective is we're plateaued. We see some declines. This is the July index, all right? So we already know that the July and August are typically your two best selling months. So for me, not a surprise. I actually thought it was going to have an uptick, an increase, so it remained the same, which is interesting. I thought it was actually going to go up a little bit. So maybe August might go up, but I believe afterwards, now that September's here, we're going to see a slowdown and things will start changing. A lot more days on market. We'll see more price reductions. People will have to figure out what to do and see if they need to sell or they're going to hang on their property. So who knows what's going to happen. But again, we're in this seems like every time I talk about Case-Shiller, it seems that we're in a time warp. It's not moving fast enough. I do feel that way personally. And I'm looking at other signs, other things that to me suggest that we are changing the marketplace and the values are going down and the opportunities will change as time goes on the next few months. I actually just saw something before I popped on the video here. Didn't really get a chance to read it, but it was basically a quick headline that said at least half of the world's richest people expect that we'll be in a recession next year. So it's people. What's what I'm looking for? A lot of smart people are predicting where things are going to go. A lot of smart people like this guy, Mr. Shiller. As I said before in other videos, he's not coming right out and saying, I think, what he truly believes. I think he carefully crafts his sentences and his words not to alarm the general public and not to alarm the markets. But I wouldn't expect anything as severe as the great financial crisis coming on right now. You see, so coming on ever, but right now. So maybe in 6 months he might, but not for right now. So, again, read between the lines. That's what I'm trying to do, trying to figure things out. But if you take a look at the graphs, and again, as I said, I'll post this information, the link. You can take a look at it. The graphs are very straightforward. It goes up, it goes down, it goes back up, it kind of plateaus, and it goes back down again. So we have seen trends, lower trends, and we're just hovering now, and I think the trends will pick up a little faster, and the declines will be a little steeper in the next few months of graphs. So anyway, having said that, thank you for the views, thank you for the likes and the comments. Lots going on right now, so I appreciate everybody contacting me, appreciate your patience as well too as I get back to you. If you're not a subscriber and you'd like to know more about this funny real estate market that we're in, please click the subscribe button and help my channel grow. I'd really appreciate that. If you'd like some information regarding home purchases, selling your house, particularly on never paying retail for property, or if you want to delve into the untapped, we'll call it pre-foreclosure / short sale inventory that's sitting out there doing nothing with nobody going after it, reach out to me and I'll show you how that can be done. All right, everybody, thanks very much, and we'll look forward to speaking to you before week's end.